guys 18 months working with Stephen and then working at the clubs and really developing. You're talking about having a fantastically strong team, a team that will be able to compete in European Championship.
OTB AM, Ireland's only sports breakfast show, weekdays from 7:30 AM, only on OTB Sports Radio. Live 24/7 on the OTB Sports app. The Cheltenham Show on OTB Sports. Don't feel like a punter. Feel like a favourite this Cheltenham with Paddy Power.
Hi there, I'm Thom Malone and welcome along to the Cheltenham Show on OTB Sports with Paddy Power. Don't feel like a punter, feel like a favourite this Cheltenham. Well, it's Gold Cup Day, it's finally upon us. The blue ribboned event of the week, of course, the big one as we wait to see can Album Photo bring up the magic hat-trick. Well, I'm in pretty esteemed company. I've got Johnny Ward and John Duggan alongside me. Guys, how are you this morning?
Morning, Tom.
Good morning, Tom.
John, you are hatless today. What is the story? Is that an issue? Have you lost your hat, quite literally?
No, the shirt is still on me. The hat wasn't bringing me luck. I'm a very superstitious guy, and I like the feel of the hat. I like wearing it, but I decided, you know what? I've got a really good head of hair, and I wanted to show that today on the Cheltenham Show.
There is no doubt about that, John. It is a fine head of hair, and unfortunately, like many of us, there's no barbers open. But yeah, I think you're dead right. Some of us may need a change of tack though over the course of the week. One person that doesn't though is Rachel Blackmore, and you just look at the front pages of all the papers. Once again, there is one name on it, and you can just see there: Britain 4, Rachel 0, as the Sun points out, the Star points out there, the absolute dominance of Rachel Blackmore. Again, we got snapping at his heels, although the Sun went with the wrong pun here. They went with photo shoot. Don't you know it's boom? You're supposed to go with the boom part of the pun. And the Times in the UK, look at that, full page picture in a class of her own, Rachel Blackmore. It's been a quite incredible week for Rachel Blackmore. We've spoken plenty about it, Johnny, but I mean, yesterday it's just elevated to a new level. You're talking about someone having 5 winners at a single Cheltenham Festival, and the other people that have done that ever, you know, are the absolute greats of the game.
It's staggering stuff, really, Tom. You know, Irish mares have won more races than British horses put together, and Rachel obviously has 5 to the 4 that the British have. And what a boost this is for racing, you know, coming into the festival on the back of such bad publicity in terms of Morgan and all that. And I don't think you could actually, short of Bryony Frost winning the Gold Cup today on Frodon, which I think would be, you know, a good lift for the British as well in the week in which, you know, the British jumps race has taken a pacing. Rachel Blackmore to have done what she's done with these winners, helped in no small part by the horses that she's ridden for both Willie Mullins, who she rose. She's ridden 2 winners for Willie Mullins and 3 for Henry de Bromhead. Those 2 trainers are at the top of their game. They've produced the horses to be at their peak, and Rachel is basically riding with so much confidence now that she's winning, and generally winning easily on these horses as well. And the optics of promoting I think the quality in racing that we probably do take for granted has been just fantastic. I think, you know, horse race in Ireland and those who promote the sport in this country should be desperately wondering now, what do we do to get Rachel Blackmore's face on billboards all over Dublin, all over the country, to promote that she's a woman who's basically a leader in her sport, and she is battering it at Cheltenham, absolutely battering it out of the way, and she's doing it in a humble way as well, and it's beautiful to watch.
I suppose, John, when you think about this Cheltenham, when we were looking at it 3 days ago, and maybe some of us weren't in the greatest spots, we said we're only maybe 50 to 75% excited. That's all changed now, obviously. But I mean, punters now with Rachel Blackmore, she's kind of moved into that follow her blind situation, hasn't she, after having a week like this? You know, before people would just be like, oh, what's Ruby Walsh riding? I'm back in that. What's Barry Geraghty back in? AP McCoy back in? She's actually in that territory now with punters as well, isn't she?
She is, Tom, and I think Allaho was a clear example of that yesterday. All the other jockeys and horses were waving the white flag. They were all on the canvas. It was an amazing performance, and she rides with such positivity. Surely that transmits itself to the horse, you'd have to think. And she's able to, luckily she got off that fall from Plan of Attack and is okay now for the ride on the Plutarch today, but riding with such confidence. And I can really think of very few examples where men and women compete together in sport. And we have a situation like Rachel Blackmore's right now. Ruby has the record of 7 winners at a festival, 2009, 2016. I can only remember maybe Julie Crone, who won the Belmont Stakes as part of the American Triple Crown in 1993. Like, you're going back to Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs in that tennis match. But I can't really think of other examples really of the situation we're seeing with Rachel Blackmore right now. It should be global news. It should be on CNN and hotel rooms across the world. And as you say, Johnny, about the billboards, I go to London quite a lot before the pandemic struck. And like, I'll be in London at Christmas, and I could be up the escalators in the tube, and they'd always have all these ads for Cheltenham. Book your tickets now for Cheltenham in March. And I think we're very good in Irish racing at showcasing, as we do on Friday Night Racing, the human interest stories of these people. But yeah, we also need to bring them out and about, get them on billboards, get Rachel Blackmore on a billboard. And she doesn't even need to say anything or do anything. Like, it could be like at a Punchestown, or it could be at a ferry house, or just a reminder of her prowess and what she's doing. And I think we're quite relaxed about it, probably because of Sonia O'Sullivan and Katie Taylor's triumphs on a global stage. So we're quite relaxed about it. But Rachel's now the newest addition to that role of honour.
Yeah, absolutely, John. And she's probably in that sort of sphere. You talk about Sonia Sullivan, you talk about Katie Taylor, it's Rachel. And if you say you're talking about horse racing, you're talking about Rachel, it's, you know, the one name does it. Everyone knows who you're talking about, and she is now a face where you don't even need the kind of get to know Rachel Blackmore situations, because she is probably the face of the sport. And Johnny, you'd have to think for the next few years that will be the case, because we are seeing a transition of jockey talent. You know what I mean? AP McCoy, Barry Gardy, Ruby Walsh, they're all retired now. Yeah, Davy Russell probably, you know, I don't want to retire anyone, but he's not at this festival, and he's, you know, the wrong side of 40. So realistically, we're at the next generation, and you'd have to think at the top of the jockeys tree, it's kind of her and Jack Kennedy at the moment. Obviously Paul Townend as well, but as regards recognisable faces, she is by far the top.
And she, you know, she's ridden 5 winners. Jack has ridden 3 winners, and his ride on Mount Ida was superb yesterday. And particularly in the context of the, you know, the sporting disaster, as disasters go, of Envoy Len falling, you know, it was a terrible start to the day. But, you know, the winners that Jack has ridden, he's just kind of given a very, very nice reminder, I think, of the qualities he has and why he was so much missed when he was injured. But getting back to Rachel there, you know, Katie Taylor won the Sports Person of the Year last year, and, you know, there was a very good case that Sam Bennett should have won it. That Sam Bennett, basically, what he did in terms of his sport compared to what Katie Taylor did, they're not even comparable. But if Katie Taylor can win it, surely we have to look already in March at what Rachel Blackmore can do, because Rachel Blackmore is competing against men, and she's beating them day in, day out. She's become one of the best jockeys in Ireland, despite the fact that she was coming from a low base as a kind of a struggling amateur. She's built relationships with Michael O'Leary, with Henry de Bromhead, with Gordon Elliott to some extent, and now obviously with Willie Mullins, where she's riding for all these top trainers, and she's doing it in a really, really powerful way, and she's doing great kind of service to her sport. And as JD said there, it's this confidence she's given these horses, because the ride she gave Allaho yesterday, and is a good analogy about being on the canvas, because Min went after Allaho and he was punch drunk. He was absolutely punch drunk. But she was confident after the race. She said, "Oh, everyone was saying to me, you went some gallop there." And she quite simply said in the interview, "I didn't think we were going anything that was out of his comfort zone." And the importance of what she said there in terms of, she's riding a horse that probably stays the guts of 3 miles, as we saw in the RSA Chase last year. He's dropping back in trip. But at the same time, you can spoil a horse. You know, if you're a good marathon runner, you'll still be legless if you run 5,000 metres at a pace that's wrong. You know, so it's all about timing, and it's all about confidence, it's all about getting your fractions right. And, you know, her riding this week has been imperious. I would argue that Jack Kennedy maybe has been better in some of the technical aspects, because Rachel has ridden winners that have won so easily. But she's basically been flawless, and it's really, really marvellous to watch. And it'll be interesting to see today, because imagine if Henry de Bromhead ends up winning the Gold Cup as well as his other triumphs this week, and who knows what will happen with Rachel. But the British will probably be, I think if there had been a crowd, they would have taken Rachel to their hearts, because they haven't really had any home winners to cheer over the 3 days so far. Yeah,
you would imagine so. Kind of thinking of breakthrough moments at Cheltenham, with like McCoy when he won the Gold Cup and Champion Hurdle, and same year Make a Stand, and Mr. Mulligan perhaps. I mean, that really elevated him to the next level. And obviously, if you want to get involved, give your thoughts as well, make sure that you get involved in the chat, leave comments as well on the stream, and of course you can tell us who will win the Gold Cup. Before we move on to that though, Johnny, one of the moments of the day, and I don't think I've ever kind of witnessed anything like it, was Johnny Moore and Danny Mullins yesterday after flooring Porter. I mean, the flooring Porter story on its own would normally be absolutely incredible, but Johnny Moore, who you know well, he's an upcoming brilliant jockey, obviously part of the Gavin Cromwell team, stood himself down for the biggest ride of his career and told the trainer to book his friend Danny Mullins, that he admitted afterwards that he thought of Danny when he was lying at the back of the fence in Naas on Sunday when he realised he wasn't 100%. It is just the most incredible show of humility and sportsmanship, wasn't it?
This is the talk as well. If you go to Gordon Elliott's yard when he was training, and you observed the people there that morning, you might have Davy Russell, Dennis O'Regan, Brian Cooper, Keith Donoghue, and you've all these personalities, but they're no more than stable staff, really. They're the stable staff and the jockeys. They're all part of the team, and they all have their horses to ride out. They all have their horses to wash afterwards. They all have their horses that they look after, the mucking out stables and all that. Everyone kind of is part of a team. And, if you see the performance of Johnny Moore yesterday, I thought this was quite extraordinary because he could have probably, admitted or let on that he was okay and ridden the horse. This injury happened at the weekend. And, we used to talk about how a lot of the senior jockeys wouldn't ride in the cross-country race because they were afraid they'd take the wrong course and get banned. We also used to talk about how jockeys wouldn't ride close to Cheltenham in case they get injured. Yet Johnny Moore rode at Naas, and, he's riding a horse that does have jumping frailties, but essentially had a kind of a soft enough fall in as falls go. But just as he was kind of in slow motion, letting himself down to the ground, he's probably in that split second or that second or so thinking, I don't want to be out of Cheltenham here as much as I've lost a race here. But as he's kind of just about to meet the turf, 20-1 shot comes from behind and gives him a kick in the back. And that was the end of Cheltenham. And you know the feeling when you were a kid and you wanted to play and you were dying to play on the Saturday, but you thought you were injured, and you said, I'll run in the morning and see how I am. And you run out in your garden and you're absolutely goosed, and you probably still tell the manager you're grand. Johnny Moore couldn't do that because he knew that he was on a horse with a chance. So then I was kind of thinking after the race, so you can look at this as you could be, kind of sad about this, and you can be cursing the fortune that has befallen you, or you can say, actually, I'll be riding probably the dominant staying hurdler in the next few years going forward. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad. And great for Danny Mullins as well, John. He's had plenty of near misses. I think at Concertista a couple of years ago, he's done with an hour's the margins. His own mother's horse beat him one year as well by a short margin too. So it's just great to see him get a deserved Cheltenham winner.
That was Milton. He lost to Mags Mullins and Martello Tower. I remember that. And he was very honest and relaxed and laid back after the race. And he was said that he did just a percentage of the work, and Johnny Moore did the rest of it. And sometimes I wish, I love Matt Chapman. I love him. I think he's brilliant at what he does, and I think he's the new betting guru in television betting. But I don't know. I wondered, did Johnny Moore want to be spoken to yesterday? I suppose you just need to gather your thoughts at these times, and I felt a bit heartbroken for him. Because it's so hard to ride a Cheltenham winner as Danny Mullins knows to his detriment, and now his triumph yesterday. So sometimes it's one of these things where you're gathering your thoughts after the race, one of the biggest days of your life, and sometimes I kind of feel, okay, get them back in the winners' enclosure and do it then. But for Danny, he's a laid-back guy. He's part of a huge collective of dynasty, isn't he? Really, like you've got Tony and Mags, and you got then Emmett on the other side, the cousin, and then you have winning with the shunter, and then you got George, who's involved with Willie and Tony, and they're really they're such an amazing family, and what they've done for Irish sport and for horse racing. It's just not William Mullins; it's the whole lot of them, and you can see with Emmett now that, like with those wins at Kelso and with the win at Cheltenham yesterday and the 100,000 bonus, that these are the new kids on the block in the Mullins household, and Danny well deserved his win.
Yeah, it's absolutely great to see.
It was fascinating last night. Sorry, Tom.
No,
just
go for
watching Learkin and Ross on TG Car, which has been a beautiful series, really. Dave Keena and Dennis Kerwin have been involved in, and I think racing people have really enjoyed it. But last night was Dawn Run, and it was strange. The more things change, the more they stay the same. You're looking at Dawn Run, and when she came in after, I think it was winning the Gold Cup into Cheltenham, it was dangerous how many people were around her, and clearly didn't care about, their welfare, and it was just reflecting on how the hysteria of the crowd, and even Paddy Mullins, the trainer, thought it was almost too much, how much reception she got. But obviously the main part of, or one of the big parts of the Dawn Run narrative was Tony Mullins getting jocked off in favour of John Joe O'Neill, from an owner I think that most trainers just wouldn't put up with nowadays. She had far too much involvement in what was going on, and she was difficult to deal with. But then, you're watching this after having seen that day at Cheltenham, Tony's very son Danny is jocked up on a horse through another circumstance and ends up winning the Stairs Hurdle. So it was a strange kind of thing to think about last night, and also observe how much a young Tony Mullins actually looked like his son Danny now.
Yeah, I thought that as well, and Tom and Tom and Davey the same too. Absolutely, very, very, very similar. Anyway, let's move on to Gina Bryce. She'll be on course with us from the course very shortly. Although, of course, we mentioned Flooring Porter there, and trainer Gavin Cromwell joined Richie and John on last night's show to look back at that success in the Paddy Power Stairs Hurdle. Here's a clip on that, starting with Gavin Cromwell explaining how they stumble upon the horse's front-running potential.
Well, I've had this conversation with several times with lads in the yard and with Johnny again today, and we can't really explain explain it completely to a T, but I think one big part of it, he won a Grade B handicap hurdle. It was a 90 grand hurdle in Navan early December. The plan wasn't to make the running with him, but he burst his way to the front, and Johnny ended up making the running on him. And to be honest, I thought a mile out, his race is done, because he was going quite quick and heavy ground, and he absolutely bolted up, and so we haven't changed them tactics since.
And the owners, they're involved in the carpet business and the pub business.
Yeah, and there's a few more guys involved as well. Listen, they're a great bunch of lads, and they're really enjoying it.
Yeah, indeed, the Flooring Porter syndicate. Oh my goodness, what Cheltenham would have been like if they were around. Anyway, we've got a few texts coming in as well. So PJ there, he reckons Champ is going to take the big one. He flew past Allaho up the hill last year, and we've seen what Allaho can do with a 12-length win yesterday. His jumping has matured from schooling with Nico and that means Henrietta Knights in September, so he's the complete package. Anyway, going to join Gina Bryce from the course. Gina, it is Gold Cup Day, but I don't think it's a Gold Cup Day like any other. I mean, obviously you're used to trekking up to the course, and at this stage you'd be nearly stepping over half dead bodies, and people who have done the 4 days and are straggling in, as well as the sort of once a year lot who are absolutely revved up to the max. So very, very different experience this time round.
Yeah, very much so. They'd be nursing the hangovers usually, wouldn't they, and dragging themselves in. You can probably see a little glimpse in the window there, reflection of Cheltenham behind me. It is empty. It's eerie. It's strange. When the winners come back in, there's no celebrations. This is a course that lends itself to the public being here. It's a natural amphitheatre. It's an atmosphere like no other, and it has been strange this week. But what we've been lucky with is we've been blessed with some absolutely brilliant performances on the track, some brilliant stories, and actually the people that are here, the stable staff and the few smatterings of media that have been allowed to be here, have created a little bit of atmosphere. The stable staff have been kind of applauding them as they come back in, and there's still been that sense of excitement at being here, shall we say. So I'm hoping that's going to roll on to today, to the Gold Cup, and why shouldn't it? Because we've got some brilliant racing in store.
Yeah, and I suppose that's something as well that has kind of translated into the TV coverage. Again, with so few people there, you have to focus on the ones that are there, and there does seem to be a great bond. I mean, you think of the likes of Flooring Porter and that story yesterday with, as we just mentioned, with Johnny Moore and Danny Mullins, and Paul Hennessy leading up his own horse, and the stable staff really seem to have played their part in adding whatever atmosphere there is to proceedings.
Yeah, and it's actually been really nice, because usually you might not notice those stories. It's stripped it all back and brought it sharply focused on those people that care for these horses day in, day out. Rachel Blackmore, there was a lovely moment at the top of the hill when she had her winner yesterday, and she crossed over, and one of the stable lads, presumably his regular groom, came over and gave the horse Allaho a big pat and was fussing over him, and she did that before she even went to do her interview for the ITV cameras. Now, you wouldn't normally notice those small details, Flooring Porter's lad sprinting up the track cheering. I'm sure he got a percentage of that, of the prize money, the way he was celebrating. And the Shunter's groom as well. You can imagine, £100,000 bonus in the pot, and you can just see what it means to these people. And sometimes that's lost in the melange and the roar of the crowd. That's not to say we don't want them back, that is for sure, we do. But lovely to focus in on those stories.
I suppose that's one thing as well. Sorry, this seeing Cheltenham this time around will just make people want to go back even more next year, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. People don't like to miss out on this meeting. I spoke to Andrew Gemmell yesterday, who's the hugely charismatic owner of Paisley Park, and we were speaking to him on the phone before the race. He said, he's been going to Cheltenham for 30 odd years, and this is the first year he'd missed, and he was feeling quite forlorn on the sofa watching it, albeit Paisley Park ran a big race. But I think that's the thing. They're going to be oversubscribed, that's for sure, when we get to have crowds back on the track, and it's just going to add to this meeting's popularity, I think.
John, you want to come in there? Go on.
Sorry, Tom. Gina, is there any kind of disquiet or alarm about the Irish dominance of the festival? 17 winners to 4. Will there be any kind of reflection upon that after the festival, do you think, from the home contingent? Because like back in the day, 30 years ago, the bumper was brought into Cheltenham to help Irish horses, but it's got to the stage now where it's not really competitive. That's the way we kind of see it from our perspective. Now, I know that these things are cyclical, but if you look at the Irish novices, they're the stars of the future. Is there any worry there that it is getting a little bit too much of a gap?
I think definitely, and there's got to be a discussion afterwards. People have played it down, mainly the British, saying, this goes in peaks and troughs and it will come back round. But the curve is very much firmly in favour of the Irish over the last few years. And this is just the culmination of what have been the building blocks, as you say. This year it's brought it into sharp focus that the British are not competitive. And this is in a year where there are COVID restrictions and you maybe haven't got the weight of numbers coming over from Ireland. So I think it is a worry. As we know, success breeds success. We've had the rise of kind of superpowers in Ireland, but it's not just the Gordon Elliott and his Foster stable and Willie Mullins now. Henry de Bromhead, look at the week he's had. He's now graduating to the very top level as well. And I think, previously you've got these big spending owners. There's only a very small pool of them. JP McManus, Rob Core, the Donnellys, Cheveley Park Stud. They are having all their horses in Ireland, whether they buy them in France, whether they buy them in the UK, whether they buy them from Irish point to point, they keep them there. And I think that's significant, that the more that success goes on, the more that situation's going to perpetuate. So, the onus is on the British trainers to find those bigger owners and try and win them back to the UK. I don't know. It's a really tricky one, John, but I think it's definitely one that needs discussed. And there's a lot of people joking that, with the imminent introduction potentially in the future of a fifth day, maybe they could make it a fifth day for British-only runners and give them a chance.
I mean, is there a willingness? Sorry, Gina. Is there a willingness to increase prize money over there, or get institutional support, maybe with the bookmaking industry? Because that's what's going to have to change to get more British owners involved at a higher level and get more horses like the likes of Caudo, Star, and Denman, as you had a few years ago.
Yeah, it's exactly it. You hit the nail on the head. Without that situation changing, why would you have a horse in the UK when you can collect good prize money in Ireland all season? You can still come over and compete with the very best trainers at the very highest level here. It's an absolute no-brainer. And when you've got an operation like Cheveley Park Stud, steeped in the history of British bloodstock, one of the leading flat operations here, choosing to have their horses in Ireland, then you've got a big problem on your hands. And as you say, it does come down to the prize money, hugely complicated political issue, minefield, so many different strands to that discussion. So probably one for another day. But yeah, something has got to change, John, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gina, we're just going to move on to today's racing then. Obviously, big moment for you in the first. You got your, I think it's your best bet of the week, isn't it, in the Triumph?
Did I quickly, confidence quickly waning? So difficult, isn't it, to be backing one of the British training contingents after the week they've had. Look, I love the horse. I think Tritonic is a really exciting recruit to hurdling. He was rated 99 on the flat, so he's the best flat horse that Alan King has ever gone over hurdles with. He looked really good in the Adonis on better ground. It is better ground here at Cheltenham this week, so I think that'll really suit his chances. They only jump 2 hurdles and have quite a bit of flat ground to make up in the closing stage of the Triumph, which should play into his hands. And, everything seems to be in his favour. It's just the fact that the Irish horses have just looked head and shoulders above us this year. And, many people can't hear of Zana here being beaten. Interestingly, Calixios as well is now a shorter price than Tritonic. And you can see why Zanna here, look, he's done it both ways, off a slow pace, off a fast pace. He's looked very good. We haven't seen him since Christmas, but yeah, my confidence is waning, but I'm going to have to stick with Tritonic and hope Alan King can win this for a third time.
Absolutely, Gina. Don't be afraid. Don't be swayed by the prices. A bigger price is surely just more attractive. Means you get to win more. On to the Gold Cup, and I suppose probably focus on the British Challenge first, just because it'll be an intriguing test for Champ. Stepping up from 2 miles. Obviously, that 2 miles looked like it sharpened up his jumping, but he did seem to be a little bit keen in Nico de Boinville's hands. So do you think maybe there could be a slight issue with him just running on his head a little bit, maybe for the opening half mile or so?
Yeah, I think there are just too many question marks here. Look, Nico de Boinville has gone for Champ here. They've got Santini in the race as well. And look, let's focus on the positives. Nicky Henderson of the British trainers has had 2 winners here. Chantry House and Shishkin on the first day, 70-time Cheltenham Festival winner. So we can never underestimate him. Champ, I think the faster he goes, weirdly, and the more pressure is on him, the better he jumps. It's when he gets time to think about it that he starts making some of those mistakes. And over the longer trip here, I'm just not sure that it's going to be up to scratch. It's a very unconventional prep he's had coming into this, and whether he's put under pressure in a race like the Gold Cup over that sort of trip, I'm just not sure it's going to play to his strengths necessarily when you've got rock solid horses in there like Alboon Photo. But there should be quite a lot of pace on, I think. So potentially he's not going to he's going to be going fast enough to settle into a rhythm early on.
There's no doubt, though, where your allegiance is going to lie. A horse that, you basically, sourced, bought and sent to Henry de Bromhead, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Entirely
all of the responsibility.
Without me, this horse could still be running around Pau and Auteuil. No, not true at all. But, my other half sourced the horse in France, at Chewby Park Studs, purchased it to go to Henry de Bromhead. We know what a week he's had. Unprecedented if he could win all 3 championship races. He's on the cusp, having won the champion hurdle and the champion chase. Could he do it with this horse? Rachel Blackmore would become the first jockey since A.B. McCoy in '97 to do the champion hurdle Gold Cup doubles. There are so many threads to this. Chewby Park Stud, of course, Supremo David Thompson, who owns the operation, sadly passed away just before Christmas. So it would be a lovely tonic for the family, and a horse that the National Hunt operation was very much Mr. Thompson's baby. So wouldn't it be lovely to see this horse go forward for him? I do think he's got the ideal profile. I'm really glad we've got better ground as well, because I think he'll spring off it even better. We saw him spring up the hill as just a 5-year-old to win the novice race here 2 years ago. He's got that perfect blend. He's beaten Shacklin Poissoir over 2 miles. He's proved his stamina in the Sowers Chase last time. I think everything is lining up for him. It's a deep field, don't get me wrong, but my allegiance very much with the Plutards. It's a little bit drizzly here this morning, but I don't think it's going to get into the ground appreciably. I think still we'll have quite a good surface, and we've seen that from what's happened this week. Those runners kind of bounding off it and being able to front run. It's a pretty good racing surface.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm sure you'll create your own Cheltenham roar if Plutar is looming coming to the last. Just finally, Gina, I can't help but notice the front page of the Times sports section this morning, and it's a full pager of a picture of Rachel Blackmore, a class of her own. Obviously, coming into this week, there were massive PR concerns for the sport. I mean, you saw the interview at the head of the BHA where she basically had to defend the future of the sport on Radio 4. Do you think a significant amount of repair has been done to racing reputation in the last sort of 3-4 days?
Yeah, I think it's really shone a positive light on racing. There's no getting away from it. And I think the Rachel Blackmore story is twofold. The first thing is, look, here is a female jockey, there's no getting away from it, that is dominating at the very top level. Not just winning one big race, not just a flash in the pan, she is consistently dominating at the top level. And I think first and foremost, this week is going to serve to put any chat about female jockeys to bed. This is the last time we're going to be focusing on this. This is the last time, in my view, that this is going to be front page news, because it's been done now. She's proved it can be done. And now it's just up to those behind her to follow her through and do it again. But I think that from a really positive point of view, we know Rachel likes to deflect plays from herself, and she doesn't like to dwell on the fact that she is a female jockey breaking new ground. And I think she's done enough this week to put that argument to bed. We've seen it, we've done it, it's brilliant, and hopefully it bodes well for the future. Second fold from that story is that it has cast a really positive light on a sport where where men and women can compete at the very top level, where we've seen this fantastic jockey come to the fore. And there's no getting away from the shadow that was cast on racing through Gordon Elliott's behaviour with the picture that emerged. We have all had to be on the front foot and defend the sport, really. It's not a welfare issue. I don't think anyone who knows the sport is in any doubt that these horses are treated with the utmost care and attention, and you only have to see the studs and the stable grooms this week and how they've responded to these horses to know that. But when you see a picture like that, the wider media that don't necessarily understand the sport are always going to jump to conclusions and have questions to ask. And so we have had to be on the defensive. But I think now it's time to get on the front foot. You know, calling it an existential crisis is taking it to extremes. It's not an existential crisis. It's a brilliant sport. Welfare is at the forefront of everyone's concerns in this sport, be it the BHA, the IHRB, the participants. And I think it's time we stop self-flagellating. We start getting on the front foot and saying this is a brilliant sport and we're well capable of regulating it and conducting it to the highest standards.
Yeah, absolutely. God, I don't think anyone could have said it better or agree more. Gina, final very quick thought. Anything else? I mean, obviously Apple Tar and Tritonic. Anything else for you on the card today? You gives me really excited to watch and maybe have a few quid on.
Yeah, I really like Third Time Lucky in the county. Obviously, a fiercely competitive race, but as a horse, I probably would have given a squeak for the Supreme before I'd appreciate its victory in that. It lines up for Dan Skelton. He's won this race 3 times in the last 5 years. He's had a few near misses this week, so encouraging signs from the stable. And this horse, he just fluffed his lines in what was a tactical race at Musselburgh last time in the Scottish Supreme trial. But I think better ground today, fast pace will really suit him, and I really like his chances in that. What else? We've got Ellie May, who I know the Irish can't see being beaten in the mares race, and obviously her form is looking really good. She got pretty close to Allaho a couple of starts ago, who ran away with the Ryanair yesterday, so that brings her into sharp focus. And she's a half sister, an older sister to Goshen, who fluffed his lines on day one. So the older sister's stepping in today, showing him how to get the job done.
Yeah, hopefully she can turn left.
Yeah, that's it. I think she can make the family proud after Goshen's disgraced them on Tuesday.
Thanks, Gina. Look, I'll let you go and you can get back to your 5 live duties. Best of luck, and hopefully you can scream the house down for Apple Tar later.
I want Apple Tar. I'm there all the way. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Gina. And Johnny, I suppose that's just it's just been an absolutely brilliant week. And like I said, as Gina said there, I mean, racing does seem to have won back a little bit of the pure battle, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Gina spoke very well there, and she is speaking from a different perspective. We don't really have the issues in Ireland, I think, that British racing have, and you have to remember that a lot of the Gordon Elliott stuff was driven by the actions of the BHA, and maybe I criticise the IHRB over here for being a bit slow, but in fairness, it was explained to me that you need due process, and this Elliott thing was actually kind of fast tracked, and they brought it to was it like a Sunday he admitted what had gone on or whatever, and then it happened on the Friday where they had the case heard, but the BHA had put a lot of pressure on the IHRB by issuing a statement on the Sunday. And to be fair to the BHA, it is very, very paranoid about the image of racing in Britain. And I think, Gina spoke really well there, that the Rachel Blackmore thing ceases to become that she's a female jockey. It just is there now, and that's what it is, and we don't need to be kind of keep going on about it. And I agree with what she's saying, but British racing needs to kind of start thinking about the fact that Ireland has had 17 winners this year, Britain has had 4. That's a crisis. The crisis is not so much what the photo of Gordon Elliott. The crisis is where British racing is at the moment, the absolute dominance of an Irish opposition team that will be numerically much smaller year on year, and that is a big issue for it. So I think the PR stakes have definitely been won by racing this week, but it was needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to join Paddy Power in just a few moments' time, but first we're going to hear from Gavin Cromwell once again. He spoke to Richie last night after Flooring Porter's win in the Paddy Power Stairs Hurdle yesterday.
Yeah, he very much has a mind of his own, and he's inclined to. He's broken the tapes a few times where he's very anxious to get on with it. He's just, I suppose, when you're walking and trotting around the place with him, he's inclined to want to do things in a hurry and just to get going. And thankfully, Danny managed to keep a lid on him at the start and quite relaxed, and it all went to plan, and he got a perfect start and made the running, and they never seen him really.
Yeah. He took the last with ease, but then there was a slight wobble, a couple of strides afterwards. What were you thinking at that point?
Yeah, I was actually standing very close to that. He's done that a few times in the past. He's, as I said, he is a little bit quirky, and there's a little bit of a cutaway rail at the last hurdle, and he just basically didn't have a rail for a few strides, and he just kind of ducked across looking for the rail. But once he found the rail, he galloped out to the line.
Yeah, Gavin Cromwell there chatting to Richie McCormick about the success of Flooring Porter. Well, you're watching the Cheltenham Show on OTB Sports with Paddy Power. Don't feel like a punter, feel like a favourite. And, well, Paddy joins us now. Paddy, how are you doing this morning? Obviously, a very, very different Gold Cup morning for you.
Oh, big time, Tom. Fresh to daisy. Yeah, raring to go. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, you mustn't know yourself. You were run yesterday. What was it this morning? Pilates?
No, boxing this morning. I did a boxing session this morning, so I'm all raring to go. Yeah, can't wait. It's I'll give it a kick tonight, I think. But yeah, a very unusual Cheltenham week for me. Yeah,
absolutely bizarre. We're going to have a few tips for you first. I'm going to start off with my trifecta. It hasn't been magical over the course of the week. Anyway, start off with the Triumph Hurdle, and I'm going to go with Tritonic. I'm sticking with Gina Bryce, and I think Tritonic can get one on the board for England. In the feature race of the day, the Gold Cup, I think we just need to keep it simple. Album Photo, I think Album Photo can do like best mate and bring up the three-timer later on this afternoon. And then in the Fox Hunters, I think that Paul Nicholls can once again take the Fox Hunters chase, and I like Bob and Co, who's got a pretty significant jockey upgrade because he'll be ridden by Sean Bowen with no amateurs in the race. So in the Fox Hunters there at 3:40, I'm with Bob and Co. That's the third leg of my trifecta, so hopefully that does okay for us. John Duggan, no hat, but confidence is not knocked. And you've got who is your nap today?
What's the phrase? Is it all hat and no cat or something like that? A Plutar.
Yeah.
A Plutar. 305. Cheltenham Gold Cup will win. That's very Boris Johnson. Look, Album Photo owes me nothing. The horse had him the first year, and he would be a great winner, and he's underappreciated because you don't see him that often. He goes to Tremor, he wins at Cheltenham, he goes to Tremor, he wins at Cheltenham. The money's actually come from him. He's done everything. He's got a tactical speed down the hill, and he's very, very tough up that hill. It'll be very hard to pass him. I just think a Plutarch, the best race I saw this year was the Irish Savills Chase at Christmas, when a Plutarch came with that Darrow O'Keefe run to nab Mellon and Kenboy. He's beaten Shackelburst by over 2 miles. He's won at the festival before. He's only 7. I think that he's the improver in the race. And I think that with Rachel in such good form and transmitting that positivity to the horses, and Henry in blinding form, I think a Plutarch might be the one to show that speed and stamina and class to win the Gold Cup today. So that's my nap today, is a Plutarch. I'm a little bit behind. I'm having a weird week. I've had 4 winners in 3 seconds, but I'm still a little bit behind. So I've gone very aggressively in my tipping to try and win a bit of money for charity, for profit for Paddy Power. Although I know they're going to help us out when we're a donation to the Injured Jockeys Fund. So I recommend that everybody who's listening or checking out otbsports.com goes each way. It's each way day, absolutely right. So the first race, the Triumph Hurdle, no opinion. The second race, the County Hurdle, I've gone for Ciel de Neige at about 20-1. JP McManus colours was third at the festival in the Boodles a couple of years ago. Will like the good ground. I think it's only drizzle there. I think it is good ground that we're going to have today, probably times wise. So Ciel de Neige each way. And the Albert Bartlett, I've gone for an outsider. Like, you're taking completely on trust that Ngolo will stay, but I do think Ngolo is better than he's shown. And if he does appreciate 3 miles, he definitely could be a complete outsider. That might have an each way chance. Ngolo at 25-1 in the Albert Bartlett. The Fox Hunters, I've gone for one called Porlock Bay. Will Biddick, who's a good man when it comes to hunter chasers, and the Nichols Yard he was involved with for a long time. Porlock Bay, I watched his runs. He was very impressive the last time, second, and he's a good jumper, and he'll get the trip Porlock Bay each way. The Mayor's Chase, don't really have a strong opinion, although it's interesting to see Shattered Love in there. I think the vibes about her are good. There's money for her. And in the last race, the Martin Pipe, I've gone for Galopin des Champs. who is seen, I think, as a horse for the future, a 2.5 miler, a tough horse, Galopin des Champs at about 6-1, 7-1 for William Mullins, and Sean O'Keefe, a good conditional jockey. So I don't know if he's not conditional anymore, but he's a good jockey. So that's what I think, guys. But it's all about a Plutard. If a Plutard flops or gets beaten, it's going to be a washout Cheltenham, but I think he might do it today. Okay, Paddy, we'll start with you. So it looks like there has been a little bit of support for Album Photo. We were chatting in the office during the week, and they said that Album Photo, he's a bit like the Wales Grand Slam if he does the Gold Cup treble, because he just kind of comes in and does it with the minimum of fuss, and there doesn't seem to be a big sort of song and dance about him.
Yeah, 100%. And just on John there, he could really do it the lockdown end and the Barbers reopening. That the hat is all explained now, John. Your reference to Boris Johnson was very appropriate. But anyway, the Album Photo, yeah, you're 100% right, Thomas, or Tom, Jesus, Thomas. Anyway, he was 3-1 or thereabouts. And, you know, earlier in the week, you hear some judges kind of going, oh, well, 9-4 is very fair because Album Photo is, you know, there's nothing wrong with what Album Photo has done. In fact, it's brilliant. He's won a fast goal cup and a slow goal cup. You've heard it 1,000 times. So everything suggests that he can come back and win 3 in a row. And Best Mate was doing, I think he was 8-11 his third time. So 9-4 was pretty fair during the week. The fact that he was 3-1, it was the Rachel Blackmore factor. I mean, we used to talk about the Ruby factor and the McCoy factor. It's the Rachel factor now. A Plutard, she's just in such good form that the horse really tumbled in the odds. And it was actually looked like yesterday it might actually go off favourite, and that was probably joint favourite at one stage. But this morning, I think the market has kind of righted itself, and Album Photo has been backed back into favour. It's clear favourite now, 9-4, and A Plutard's out to 130. But the two of them kind of dominate the market. Champ hardly gets a mention. It's 11-2, and actually Manel Indo has been nibbled at as well. That was 9-10-1. It's into 15-2 now. So that's so there's a money round for a few in the race, but Album Photo sure to go off favourite, I think, at this stage. And where's your hard-earned or not hard-earned gonna fall? Well, the thing, so I think what you said is fair enough about Album Photo just being straightforward, but I think there's another twist to this Cheltenham. This Cheltenham has thrown up story after story after story, and the two things that I noticed, first of all, is that Rachel Blackmore seems to be just riding better than everyone. Like, you know, she's probably not as much of a better jockey as she looks this week, but she is in the zone, and others don't seem to be as in the zone as her. And I thought that was really, really noticeable on Tell Me Something Girl, where a lot of really big name jockeys were up the front going way too fast, as it turned out, and she was able to judge the pace herself and stay at the back and then come through and win, and also boss on Allaho from the front. So it's just like Ruby at his best. That's what it's been like watching Rachel this week. So that's a really massive plus for A Plutard. But I actually think one of the narratives today is going to be that Rachel got off the Gold Cup winner. I think Manella Indo, it might all just click into place this week. You know, Henry's horse they're obviously bombing. They're going really, really well. So I'm willing to forgive Manella Indo twice this season and go back to his Cheltenham form and kind of clutch at straws a little bit. But I think Manella Indo could be thereabouts, and it's a potential winner. And I just think with the ground conditions and everything, that should be okay for Manella Indo. And I think, yeah, I'm going to stick with Manella Indo and go each way on that. Yeah, fair enough. Johnny Ward, what about this Cheltenham Gold Cup? I mean, it is deep, isn't it? Or is it? It is deep. It's probably something like an average renewal, maybe, or better than average renewal, in that we have a two-time winner of the race who is, you know, not universally accepted as like an odds-on favourite or a really, really likely winner of the race. And Gina spoke about Champ's preparation. It's interesting. I would probably see his preparation as a potential plus. Like Album Photo, he comes here on the back of one seasonal run in which he dropped back and tripped. They would have had a different test. He was running against a horse who could have won the Champion Chase the other day with a bit of luck in Soul Royale and gave him a good race, whereas Album Photo kind of ran around against inferior, albeit good horses, at a tight track in Tremor. That seems to work for him. Maybe Nicky Henderson's kind of preparation with Champ has been a little bit unconventional and a little bit... I guess a product of the season that he had, in that he did have a wind operation and he wasn't quite right earlier in the season. But I loved his comeback run, to be honest. I think he showed a lot of pace. The ground drying out will make this less of a stamina test than maybe previous Gold Cups. But Champ's stamina, as was mentioned, he showed that last year in the RSA Chase when he brushed Allaho aside. You know, and that looked an extraordinary performance, I suppose, in hindsight. And Champ goes well around Cheltenham. His jumping seems to be better this year. And I wouldn't begrudge the British. But I tell you what about this Tritonic in the open race? I'm disappointed in JD saying he can't have a view in the Triumph Hurdle. It was like waking up this morning and
old odds checker was like waking up after a night out, and there's an extraordinarily good woman beside you as you wake up, and you have to kind of have a little bit of a double take when you see Tritonic is 4-1. 4-1 in places to win the Triumph Hurdle. This is one of the best bets I've seen in a long time each way. And even if it's down to 7 runners, he is a massive price. I can't get over it. I've been kind of humming and hawing a bit about bets maybe this week. Stop the lights and get on tight to Tritonic each way. Gina's Nap is an unbelievable bet. I cannot get over the price he is. I'd make him about 7-4, 2-1, and you're getting 4-1. You might even get bigger on the show. It's outstanding value. We
might just go around the table then on the Triumph Hurdle, because Johnny, I'm with you. I think he's a brilliant prep. He's won the Adonis. Lots of winners have come out of the Adonis, going back to, I think, Snowdrop in 2000. Paddy, what about you? Why does no? Is it just because he's British? Is that why no one's back in Tritonic?
I think so. I think the Irish novices are clearly like about 75 times better than the English novices, and I guess the Triumph Hurdle horses are basically novices, aren't they, because they're juveniles. So I think Zanahiyr was going to be my nap of the week at the start of the week. When I saw how short it was going, I was thinking, because it was much of a much between him and Tritonic for favouritism, and I've completely switched around now. And this guy, I think Tritonic is just outrageously big. I think Johnny's pace is perfect, and he's like, what is he, like 3.5, 4 times the price of Zanahiyr now nearly? I mean, that's outrageous.
Does that mean he's the best?
It doesn't make sense. The money's come for Calixios as well, lads, which there has been a bit of debate as to whether Zanahiyr is better than Calixios, but generally it would be suggested that Calixios is more of a national hunt horse. But this is a course that really does put a bit of premium on your flat speed, and Tritonic is an exceptionally good recruit from the flat, and he'd be a good bit better than Zanahiyr on the flat on what we've seen. And Calixios to me looks like a horse that wants stepping up in trip, and he'd be a bit slower. But whatever about the rest, I mean, if Tritonic isn't in the first 3, I'd be amazed. Now, obviously, Envoy Len fell yesterday. Mad things are happening, but this horse has everything. I honestly cannot get over the price he is. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And forget about your patriotic bets. Go with logic here and lump on each way. Yeah, just one thing on the Zanahiyr versus Calixios. On the coverage of the Dublin Racing Festival, Barry Garrity was on, and when we were allowed to mention his name, Gordon Elliott said, well, Barry Garrity rode work on the 2 of these during the week, meaning Zanahiyr and Calixios. They cut to Barry Garrity, and Garrity said, Calixios is a good horse, Zanahiyr is a very good horse. So that's literally on the back of the work they did. That's exactly the way I look at it. Yeah, I completely agree. So I can't see how Calixios can finish in front of Zanahiyr, and then you're looking at a match bet, Zanahiyr against Tritonic, and you can't ignore that price. Listen to the man. Listen to the man. The people of Ireland.
I've rarely heard Johnny Ward as bullish in a long time. Not since I probably saw him drinking a whiskey sour. I was just thinking of that. I was pretty bullish that day, John. Yeah, so that's a long time ago now in this world where every day seems like an eternity. It was interesting when we did the panel with Paddy and Barry Garrity and Katie Walsh last Saturday that the only English horse they mentioned was Tritonic. And that has been obviously franked for the first 3 days. So therefore, there could be actually a situation where the Irish horses are now too short and a good English horse, like Johnny is saying, is too big. So there could be a bit of reverse psychology that might be important for people to employ today when it comes to horses like Tritonic. But listen to the man, listen to JW.
There you go. We have been told. We'll move on to the Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle then at 2:30. I mean, Paddy, this has been a bit of a bookie's benefit a few times over the years. I mean, the preview circuits for years, there's always been some Jigginstown good thing that's been punted off the boards for 2 months beforehand, and then it gets beaten in the race, and I mean, the bookmakers run off happy clappy. So what's the story with this race this year?
Well, funny, you're right, but it gets beaten by a horse that ends up being Monkfish or something. Do you know what I mean? It shows up really good horses, this race. And Fakira's been backed. Like, I mean, it's not that surprising that Fakira has been backed and it's gone. And Statler was never going to be a very kind of solid favourite, if you like. But Fakira's gone in is clear favourite now. But the one thing I want to say about this race, because looking at with the ground drying out, a lot of these horses like Fakira, Statler, go down through them, loads of them have most of their form is on heavy ground and soft ground. Been very impressive staying the marathon trip on heavy ground. It's got to be a small worry. So I was trying to look for horses that have done well on good ground. The one is really short mastery now from 14s last night or 12s last night into 13-2. It's Street to Doyen has some form on good ground. Barbados Books has form in Egg and Spoon races on good ground. And Tory Graf actually, although he's won on heavy ground, he's run over shorter trips on good ground has run respectably enough. So I'm kind of going to go against Bakir and against Statler on that reason. And I was between Street to Doyle, Barbados Books and Torygraph. And I was kind of tipping up Torygraph before Cheltenham. And I think I'm going to stick to my guns here. And I know he looks like second string from the sneezy Foster yard. But I think Torygraph for me represents decent value, about 13 to 2, 7 to 1 for an each way bet.
Yeah, I heard a good rumour that came out of somewhere very close to your house as well a couple of weeks ago for that horse. So yeah, good shout there, Paddy. What do you make of it, Johnny?
I'd probably go with Vanilla here for Gavin Cromwell. I was just talking to him yesterday after the win in Florence Porter, and he said that, basically Vanilla ran at Christmas. He was sick, and that wasn't that good race when Guyer Dumanil won. Basically, forget about that run. He said his work is very good. There's a rumour that he's actually worked well with Florence Porter. I don't know if that's true, but Gavin did say yesterday the horse is in great nick, and he's like 20, 25 to 1. Gavin doesn't run horses in grade ones, basically, unless he thinks they have a realistic chance. And this is a race. I've had a bit of look at this race, but I think I've actually tipped up Penn Hill and Very Wood in this race, and they were big prices. But like Penn Hill went here with outstanding form claims, and sometimes there's a lot of hype about a favourite. Maybe this year, we've a bit of a more open race. But Vanillier has already beaten Statler, and look at the prices they are this morning. So don't be afraid to go a big price in this race. And I think he's definitely capable of running well. He stays well, and the ground shouldn't be a problem for him.
John, and who did you go for in this, John? You're at a big price. Oh yeah, you're in Golo. You think in Golo to step up in triple suit?
I don't know if it will, but I'm taking a chance at the prices, given he was quite good in that race at Ferry House, was at the Royal Bond. This race, like as well as Johnny said, it's turned up like Benny's Dream, 33 to 1, Kilbrick and Storm, 33 to 1. It's not a race to be wading in on horses you think are going to be superstars. It's a tricky race to solve, and I think a lot of these horses are unexposed, and we don't really know. It's a grueling test. It's a real battle. It's a real tough 3 miles for horses at a young age. So that's what I've gone for in Golo each way. He might not stay. He might be beaten. He might be last at 2 miles out. But if he does stay, I think he's got an each way shot at 25 to 1. But I respect what the lads have said there. That was interesting when I was listening to them and about Torygraph and Vanillier.
Paddy, anything else for you around the rest of the Friday Cheltenham card?
You gotta give a mention to in the county hurdle for. I know there's been a lot of money for it now. You raised me up. Geez, there hasn't. I'm just looking here. He's into joint favourite now. Martin Brassel's horse. It looks absolutely laid out for a handicap, and this is the one they've chosen. That one's got extra, maybe 5 to 1 is short enough. And the other one in that race that I think is really interesting because they seem to win it every year is Third Time Lucky for England and Harry Skelton and Dan Skelton. And I see it's about 7 to 1 shot as well. I mean, they're brilliant. The Skeletons are brilliant at targeting handicap hurdles, particularly. And this one is obviously targeted at this race, and it's come off for them before in the past. So there's a chance we'll have a couple of English winners today. I think Third Time Lucky and You Raise Me Up are definitely worth a look in the county in the second race. Yeah,
absolutely. And I suppose, what do they call that? Garbage time, isn't it? When they get a few goals, a few consolation goals late on when the result is beyond in doubt. Johnny, what about you? Are you going to look for anything else on the card? I mean, the Paddy Power Mares Chase, I think we're looking at another Irish good thing in this, aren't we?
Yeah, which one, I suppose. To be honest, I do think Ellie May should take an awful lot of beating, but I'm minded of the betting in which Colreevy has really come in against her stablemate with obviously Shattered Love, who won the JLT back in the day. She's third favourite. Was just reflecting on the scoreline of 17-4 for the Irish last night, and I noted that every favourite today was Irish trained as well, but I think the British should have a better day today. I think Champ and particularly Tritonic have good chances. Tritonic obviously will be by far my biggest bet at the festival actually at this stage. The Hunter's Chase, I remember last year the big gamble on Billaway and the performance he's been producing this season. Obviously Paul Townend riding him today, which is a big difference with the amateurs not there, but he's a very, very likeable horse. He finds loads for a little bit of a drive. If he's given a squeeze 6 furlongs out, don't get too concerned. I think he has a massive chance. Tritonic obviously in the first, Ganapathy be a sporting choice. Got a good word for Raise Me Up, as Paddy did as well in the third. Vanillier obviously in the fourth in the Gold Cup. I'm with Champ, and that brings us into Billaway. And then in the last race, I wouldn't. If you're having a good festival, probably you can throw a few quid on the favourite to continue on the enjoyment. You know, her form ties in very well with the other good horses from Ireland this year, and she's loads of class, this Ellie May. I think she'll take a lot of beating, but you would honestly hope. I mean, just say for example, and this is very unlikely, but say for example Ireland went through the card today, they would win this festival in terms of numbers 24-4. That's 7 races to every one won by the British. So think about that if that were to happen today.
Yeah. We want England to get 1 though, because then we want to repeat the scoreline tomorrow in the rugby. 23-5. We could do a win tomorrow, 23-5 as well. You can't get 4 in rugby, unfortunately. I just want to mention one in the last race, Tom. The favourite there, Gentleman, to me, like Johnny mentioned, is it looks like just it could be absolutely anything. 1 run put away for this probably will just absolutely hose up. But there's an English horse, David Pipe horse, in the race named after his own man. Leon Cavallo was taken out of the Imperial Cup last week. I think because of the soft ground, the ground was very soft there. The ground's obviously a bit better here at Cheltenham. It's a 20-1 shot or 22-1 shot even. So Leon Cavallo, just keep an eye on that for David Pipe. I mean, again, an English horse, so who knows? But at a big price, who knows?
Right, before we go, let's have one word on the Gold Cup. I'm going to start. I'm going to album photo. Paddy, on the Gold Cup.
2 words for me. Manila Indo even.
Johnny?
Yeah, that's a lot of censorship and, suppression there if it can only be 1 word. But 1 word will do me, champ.
Champ. And John Duggan, the final 3 words I'd say to you.
Blue tar.
There you have it. 4 separate selections in the Gold Cup.
What can possibly go wrong?
Well, we should between us have it covered on that. Thanks a million to everyone. Thanks, guys, to Paddy, to John, and to Johnny, and to you for watching all week. You've been watching the Cheltenham Show on OTB Sports with Paddy Power. Don't feel like a punter, feel like a favourite. If you missed this show, you can catch the full podcast back on the OTB Sports app or wherever you get your podcasts. Keep an eye on otbsports.com for plenty of reaction to today's races. And of course, all the tips on social as well. And of course, all of those racing today. Keep an eye out, and hopefully we're giving you 1 or 2 winners over the course of the week. So thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy that Gold Cup later on this afternoon.
The Cheltenham Show on OTB Sports. Don't feel like a punter, feel like a favourite this Cheltenham with